Hi, welcome to today's live reading of The White Knight Cowboy by Stacy-Deanne, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. I'm Megan. Join me for chapter 1. Clear Creek County, California, 1895. Most people ran to the law, not from it. But Lovely Joe was an uneducated Negro girl in 1895 California, and the law would never be her best friend. With her eyes glued to the ranch miles ahead, she ran with the speed of a stallion, pushing her way through overgrown field grass, dipping in and out of the congested woods whenever she heard a gallop of a horse or male voices yelling in the distance. Could have been the Duke brothers, the sheriff, or anybody else itching to get their hands on her so they could claim that bounty on her head. Lightheaded with sore feet, bruised knees, and hunger pains tearing through her stomach, Lovely Joe ran so fast it felt like her organs were crushing together. With each sprint, she held her breath. Her only goal was to get to Dusty Bowles' stables. She ran inside Dusty's empty, stale-smelling stable, stumbled over hay that looked like it had been there for years. She couldn't remember the last time Dusty had horses other than Jansen. Rumor was he'd gambled all his animals away, and might have to do the same thing with his entire ranch if he didn't find some money soon. But that was his problem, not Lovely Joe's. She had her own problems, and right now it was finding a place to hide until she could rethink how the heck she was going to get out of Clear Creek County without being lynched for murder. Lovely Joe entered the last stall, closed the door, and crouched in the corner. Corroded with the smell of old manure, and the walls stained with horse piss. The stall was still 10 times better than the woods. Panting, she hugged her knees to her chest as 2 large cockroaches crawled from underneath the hay. She prayed to God she wasn't wrong about Dusty Bowles. He had always seemed to be a good, honorable man, treated her kindly, and even acted like he had feelings for her. It was dumb for her to think that seeing he was a white man with so many problems and she was a Negro maid, the last thing on his mind was Lovely Joe. But he was her last chance, and if she had to hide out in these filthy stables for the rest of her life, she would. Dusty Bowles wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but he had damn good instinct. So when he returned home that afternoon after getting his new boots from the town shoemaker, he got the feeling someone was on his property. Jansen bucked and neighed as Dusty pulled on his reins, parking the carriage in front of his barely standing wood shack of a house. After petting Jansen to get him to settle down, Dusty hopped out of the carriage, got his Winchester rifle, and stalked through the dusty grass coming upon the stables. He dipped his head inside, hearing the hay rustling. He'd lost his horses months ago, but the place still smelt like urine and horse shit. With his cowboy hat made of beaver fur slipping over his narrow forehead, Dusty crept toward the first horseless stall, crunching hay under his brand new boots. Henry Jr., is that you? Dusty's ranch was the go-to place for Henry Jr. and his rowdy friends to hang out in and sneak nips of Henry Sr.'s whiskey. Henry? Dusty checked the second stall and saw no one there either. Boy, we had this conversation too many times. He inched toward the third stall. I done told you stay off my property. Your daddy promised me. Dusty checked the fourth stall. You want me to treat you like a man? I'll treat you like a man. Get out here now, Henry. He didn't expect a young woman to emerge from the last stall, hay cascading from her brown skin. Fuck me. Dusty lowered his gun, spitting off to the side. Lovely Joe Johnson? What in the Sam Hill are you doing here? 19, a virgin. At least that's what Dusty assumed, but you could never be sure how pure a black servant was with their white employers. Her white cotton dress had seen better days, dirt on the hem and hanging from her shoulders for dear life. The flimsy garment had split because of whatever she'd been doing, and not by the person who made it. Well, you gonna answer my question, girl? I'm sorry for coming without permission. She tugged at her frizzy hair tangled with hay. I've been hiding for 3 days, ain't had no food or nothing, been drinking out of ponds. Why the hell not? He groaned. And why you come all the way out here? The Bernsteins must have been going out of their mind wondering where you at. She looked down, her black lace-up boots still intact at least. We've been here all day. If you don't start, we'll be here all day if you don't start answering my questions. You're on private property. If I get Sheriff Snow, Mr. Bernstein's dead. The word shivered from her blistered lips that he guessed got that way from walking for days in the Clear Creek County sun. He dead. She burst into tears, holding what was left of her dress at the sides. The law thinks I done it, but I didn't, Mr. Bowles. She shook her head, black eyes begging. I swear. Bernstein is dead? Dusty took a second to digest the information. Ronald Bernstein was just one of the many rich Bernsteins in town, and he and Dusty had a weird relationship. Ronald was okay to spend a little time with and shoot the breeze, but he was a manipulative man who'd stab his own ma in the back if he could get something out of it. So while Dusty considered him a friend, he hadn't never trusted him. He also wasn't surprised someone would kill him. A man like that was asking for it. Tell me what happened. No time for that. Lovely Joe looked at him with the desperation of a child who'd lost her mother. I need help. I need you to take me out of the county and to my uncle in Braysville. Are you out of your mind, girl? I ain't taking you no place. I want no part of this. But you got to. I tried to go on my own, but I got no sense of direction. She sniffled, and despite the grit covering her face and her looking an ungodly mess and smelling even worse than he did, Dusty still wanted to fuck her. Please, Mr. Rolls, you've always been a kind man to me when you come to the house and played cards with Mr. Bernstein, not like the other white people who ignore me or just be straight mean. She looked into his eyes. I always felt like you cared. He dropped his wide shoulders, her suffocating gaze knocking the wind out of him. You won't get into any trouble, please. She put her hands together. I'm begging you. If you don't help me, I'll be hung in the town square. I can't go back out there with the sheriff and the Duke brothers. The Duke brothers are in this? Dusty sighed, scratching under his hat. If they're looking for you, no way you're getting out of Clear Creek County. Everybody looking for me. You're the only one I can depend on. I got a bounty of $1,000 on my head. Dusty jerked upright. $1,000? Sniffling, she nodded. Mr. Bernstein was a very well-respected man, and he'd done a lot for the county. They're going to get their money's worth on my head. Dusty stroked the brown stubble on his square chin, his fingernails black with ranch dirt. $1,000. As Lovely Joe went on about her innocence, Dusty hated himself for what he was about to do, but he made up his mind the minute he heard about that $1,000. Hell, he was struggling under debt no matter what he did. Hell, he was struggling under debt that no matter what he did, kept growing.